moment is I didn't have enough technical skill sets. I was kind of like 27, 28, didn't have technical skill sets, couldn't read or write the local language. And I was also not so well versed with the local ways of doing business. So if you kind of combine, and I'm also think the fear of failure is worse than failure itself. I mean, once you've experienced it, you are no longer scared of it because you like, I mean, I'm still.
Hey, I'll appreciate very much if you could subscribe to the channel, please. It'll help the channel grow. Please, if someone may benefit from this episode or show, please share and like. And thank you very much. And back to the show. I'm pleased to have Lucien Ong on the show today. Again, one of my batchmates from secondary school in Brunei. And it's been a while since I last spoke to him and last seen him. So it'll be great to catch up on today's show. Thank you, Lucien, for taking the time and being on this episode.
It is my pleasure to be one of your next classmates on this podcast. I was wondering if I'd be one of the chosen ones or not. So thanks for the invitation. Hey, am I the first one in 2026?
You are the first one. You're the most privileged one in 2026.
All right. Happy New Year to both of us then.
Happy New Year, Lucian. I mean, I think, like you said, I feel that there's a bit of anticipation now. You know, I'm creating that thing in the WhatsApp group. Who is Shafi going to choose next now? You know, I just hope it's not going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, no, actually, the more interesting one is you make some short videos and whether people actually watch them or not. I think that's the other controversial question. How many views? Like 2 views or 20 views, right?
That's right. But I guess that's all part of content creation, Lucian. So I think the last time we were back in Form 5, I think Form 5 back in St. Andrews School, Form 3 in St. Andrews School, and after that you went elsewhere, and that's about it. And you came back and forth, you know, just to meet up and all that. So do you want to just tell us what happened after happened after Form 3?
So lots happened, but I'll just try and be quick. Form 3, I did my high school in Melbourne, Australia. I completed that there. Then went to Melbourne University. Spent 1 year working in National Australia Bank for 1 year. And then in my kind of mid-20s, I came back to Brunei actually for about 1.5 years. I worked in government consulting. I worked for Asia Inc. Forum, and we advised the APEC Summit in Indonesia at that time. And then in my late 20s, I think life became a bit more colorful. I went to Cambodia for 1 year or 2. I was an aspiring entrepreneur. I still am actually, now a few years later. But I did 1 year or 2 there. It was a little bit colorful, but I learned a lot, and we can talk about this later. Went back to Brunei again, a second round, worked in the US Embassy, and that was a more familiar type of job. And then I was given the opportunity by my parents actually to do my master's. So early 30s, 31, 32, I got married, or my wife's. Yeah, that's my wife over there. Got married, did my MBA in Singapore at INSEAD, a business school. And then the last 7 years worked for a conglomerate, an European conglomerate, traveled in different places around Southeast Asia. And then about 1 year ago, I resigned when I was on the cusp of my 40th birthday. I resigned. And I decided that with all the experiences I get, now it's time for me to become an entrepreneur again. So I've bought my own little SME in Singapore, and I'm an investor and an entrepreneur that runs this SME. So that's my career.
Very interesting, Lucien. Oh, you know, I remember some of. So I used to call you Hanwei back in the day. I think Lucien it's there and out there now, isn't it?
Well, I don't know how out there it is, but yes, Lucien is the name that I respond to on the street right now.
Good. All right. That's an amazing story, Lucien. So, I mean, I think one of the key things, what happened in Cambodia? I think that kind of just, do you want to...
I told myself that maybe we can move to other topics, but yeah, no, Cambodia, I was young. I was very idealistic and had many big dreams. But I think the challenge for me in that moment is I didn't have enough technical skill sets. I was kind of like 27, 28. didn't have technical skill sets, couldn't read or write the local language, and I was also not so well versed with the local ways of doing business. So if you kind of combine, and I'm also like quite an idealistic person in general. So if you combine all of these factors, Lucian at 27 in a environment like that, I maybe not the right moment. But the great thing there is I actually wanted to leave after 1 or 2 months, and my parents strongly insisted that I stay and do my time, and not just quit because things don't work out the way you want. And so I spent about a year and a half, and when I think that the time was complete, where I had experienced what I needed to experience, then that's when I moved on. But yeah, it was just a time of just finding out what I really wanted to do. Was it to kind of help the NGO space? Was it to do business? Was it to do both? Who would I work with? Why would they want to work with me? There were lots of questions every day, but really, really formative experience for me,
Yeah.
Cambodia.
That's a good story. I mean, you said it was a very colorful time, so that's why I kind of picked on it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So after Cambodia, you said you went, I mean, you said you worked in the US Embassy in Brunei, you went back to, I mean, that's very interesting journey you had. What was the
Mm.
biggest, like, what were the big key moments that kind of, was that the US Embassy or back
Oh,
in Melbourne?
that's a really okay. So if I let's just say three experiences, because I've gone through a lot of different jobs in different countries. I think Cambodia is formative to me. I That was, I think, the first time that I was not so called successful in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I was very popular, or I perceived that I'm very popular. I was generally quite charismatic. I did well in school. I had a good first graduate job. And in Cambodia, I think it was the first time that Lucien Ong wasn't automatically successful. And I think having to deal with the perception of failure, I think that has been very formative for me, because now I'm quite comfortable with doing ambiguous situations or growth opportunities, and I'm not really scared of failing anymore. And I think a lot of this has to do with what I learned about, say, 12 years ago. So that's one. Two, post MBA, when I worked for this conglomerate, I was invited to go to the Philippines 1 year after graduating. And I was invited to lead a B2B cable distribution business in the Philippines, 30 staff, all Filipino, mostly engineers. I'm not from there. I don't understand cables. I'm also young, relatively young. And that was really formative for me, because I went there with basically a clean slate. And I just said to myself, look, I think I'm good enough to do this, and let's just go with it. And so for the next 3 years, as I was kind of learning how to manage and grow this company, I learned a lot. And I learned that actually Lucien Ong has talent in there. I mean, before that, it wasn't so clear. I was well connected. I was in privileged situations. But in Philippines, I had to sell cables to factories, and I had a sales. Maybe we started at a number. Let's just say call the number one. I come in with a number one, right? Sales of one. I've got to make it sales of two. Lucian, just figure it out. Don't ask us for help. Don't ask for advice. Go to Manila, figure it out, and when the time comes, tell us how much you've made. And I think that was really good, because I became successful, and for the first time, I think, in my career, it was truly like it was Lucien Ong's success. Well, I mean, plus luck, plus this and that, but it was Lucien Ong. It wasn't anyone helping me. So that is, I think, maybe the second kind of big break in my career. The last one, I will go back to business school. When I did my MBA in Singapore, it's INSEAD, full of very smart, very ambitious, very charismatic people all over the place. And when you go in, it's very easy to feel insecure, because everyone is quite talented and quite driven. And when you hear their ambitions, you're like, oh my God, like my ambition's not, like, like it's not good enough for their ambition. But I went through this uncomfortable process, and I realized that actually all of us are individually talented, but in our own way. You might be better than me in maths. This guy's an engineer. He just understands systems. But Lucien Ong perceives, again, this is maybe my own view. I think I'm a pretty good negotiator, or a pretty good kind of deal maker between managing stakeholder incentives. And I realized at business school that, my 5 or 10 classmates might be super talented and I really look up to them, but I also have my own value, and I deserve a seat on the table because of my own unique value. So I shouldn't really always think that I'm not as good as other people, because all of us have value, but it's just different. And we need to kind of accept our profiles or our personalities.
Fantastic, Lucian. Now, I just want to come back to cables. When you say cables, what do you mean by cables?
I mean industrial cables that are used to
Okay.
connect machineries
All right.
on the factory floor.
Okay, it's not the USB type of cable wires.
No, 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 not a phone shop, and no, not that. Good clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that. Anyway, no, really,
You need a USB cable, is it?
probably. No, fantastic, Lucian. Like I said, I think after speaking to a lot of people, there's always that point where you have that dip, or when when you have to accept failure. And
Yeah.
then once you hit ground zero, the only way is up. And that's where you have to figure yourself out. Yep.
And when you hit ground zero, you realize that it's not such a big deal after all. The I think the fear of failure is worse than failure itself. I mean, once you've experienced it, you are no longer scared of it, because you like, I mean, I'm still alive. I can still choose to be happy. I can still choose to go again tomorrow. Like, it's not fatal, right? I mean, you just start again.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately we don't fail, because we don't fail as long as we believe that we go again the next day, right? And I think you truly only fail if you give up. And just don't give up.
Absolutely, well said, Lucian. So, what are you doing right now? So, you said you've gone into the entrepreneurial space. So, do you want to just spell that out a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wear two hats right now. I am a partner in a holding company called Enduring Ventures. What we do is we acquire SMEs from founders who have maybe worked in an SME or founded an SME over a long period of time. They don't have a natural successor. And so we would come in as the successors of choice to sort of take over the legacy, to honor the legacy, honor the team, and kind of bring this company to the next level. So I am a partner at Enduring Ventures. This is the holding company. And the first SME that we have invested in, and now that I manage as a general manager, is a company called Yutaka. It's a 50-year-old SME based out of Singapore, and we sell packaging machines to heavy industry across APAC. And we also sell the food service equipment, which is ovens, ice machines, to the supermarkets in Singapore. I run that on a daily basis as the general manager.
Amazing, amazing, Lucian. Now, for our younger listeners out there,
Yeah.
I mean, what's the journey like? Like, what do people need to do what do the younger people need to do what you're doing right now? Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
So I've been very privileged in my journey. In the last 8 years, I was given the opportunity to go to the Philippines and run a business. Okay, it wasn't my business. I was a paid employee, but I was given the opportunity to take risk and run someone else's business. And I think the 3 or 4 years of me doing that, look, at the time I had no idea that 8 years later it will turn into this, right? I was in the Philippines selling cables, but in hindsight, the experiences gained there really have helped me pattern match and follow best practices and just kind of replicate what really worked in my current thing. So that's one. The second opportunity that I was given is I've also been I was in the M&A space for a few years, where M&A, mergers and acquisition. We look at companies to buy, we learn how to value them, we learn how to structure the deal, and then we complete the transaction. So I've also spent a few years doing that as an employee. So I was very lucky to spend 3-4 years running an SME, and then another 3 years learning how to buy an SME. And so when I was ready to kind of do this a year ago, I had actually all the skills in place, and it was just a matter of whether I was brave enough to cut the rope of senior corporate employment. And thankfully I was. Thankfully, my wife also is in a fairly senior, stable employment in Singapore, and that helps. I mean, let's be real. You don't cut the rope if you have no backup. My family has. And so she kept the job, and I had the opportunity to cut the rope and leave corporate employment and say, let's just go. Let's go and let's give it a shot. So yeah, those were my foundational skill sets that led me to what I'm doing today.
It's a milestone. Do you think it's a milestone for you? Do you think, in your opinion?
I feel, I've been doing this now for a year as my
Yeah.
own boss, as an entrepreneur. I don't think I will ever go back into corporate employment. There's so much agency. Something people ask me a lot about, like how do you feel about what you do? I think one of the best things, apart from the money, like just don't even think about that. But the agency of being in control of your own destiny, I think it's the best feeling ever, and I cannot imagine doing anything else. And in fact, I can imagine doing this, kind of acquiring and running and growing businesses as an investor and as a manager for the next 20, 30 years. I can easily see myself doing this. So I'm
Yeah.
very lucky that at the age of 40, I've landed myself in a career that I can do for the long run.
Good. It's very a liberating feeling, isn't it?
It is. I mean, and so again, I go back to the point. It's on the one hand, people, oh, you're a tauke now, right? You're a business owner, while you're
Yeah.
rich, whatever. But it's really interesting because I really truly don't think it's not about that at all. It's just the agency that you are the captain of your ship. You can have high self belief and think that you are the next Elon Musk, or you can have, irrespective of how you believe about yourself, you now are the captain of your ship. And so you will only go as far as you can go. And I think I love to have that responsibility on my shoulders, that I am now in full control of where Lucien Ong's life and legacy will end up in 20 or 30 years. Really, really cool. And for anyone who sort of wants to explore that journey, I'd be happy to just have a chat on the side as well.
Absolutely. No, it's no fantastic, Lucian. I mean, I've heard a lot of the successes and the ups in your career. What
Yeah.
are sort of the challenges that have you faced so far?
In this job or
In
in,
the I think in this job in particular, then we sort of can go back a little bit. Is there any what are sort of challenges? I'll
yeah.
rephrase that. What sort of challenges do you face in your current role right now?
Well, okay. I mean, I'll just speak high level, but I
Yeah.
think when leading a smaller environment, you must always, self care is really important. I'm still learning the art of compartmentalizing work and home. Although I'm very absorbed in the day to day of my work, I think I have a young family. I have a strong marriage. The worst thing I can do is to take all that checklist, to do list, problems, and then bring it home, right? And bringing home means I'm impatient. All that stress comes over, and so I think I'm learning how to manage that. Also, the second thing is, I think another role as a leader is to project confidence, to show the vision. And maybe in the good days it's easy to project, right? Because it's a good day and everyone's happy, and your colleagues know that, our boss is happy. And so, but there are also ambiguous situations. But I think as a boss, you must always believe in where you're heading, and you must always project that, because the moment you don't believe it, it's very, very obvious to everyone around you. So I think for me, self-care, staying close to my true north, really reminding myself why I do what I do, what's the long-term vision here, and just kind of projecting that vision onto where Utaka is heading.
Mm,
That I think is something that I don't know if it's a challenge, but it's something that is important, and it's something that only I can do as
yeah.
opposed to my colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Now, in terms of, I just want to, do you have, I mean, I worked in Singapore, I lived in Singapore, you're
Yeah.
currently in Singapore.
Yeah.
Singapore
We
is
never
well,
we never met up in
we
Singapore.
never met up Singapore. You have this, I think, this stereotypical kiasu. For people who do not know what kiasu is, it's scared to lose, I think, in a very
Yeah.
simplistic way. Do you
Yeah.
have that sort of, I mean, what do you think about that stereotype, especially you know, working as a manager role in your position?
Um, Singapore in general, or in my company?
I think in your view, like, do you feel that, are you taking on that castle attitude in yourself?
Um, I mean, I don't think any of us think that we are kiasu.
Yeah.
So certainly I have to, just a comment about Singapore, the place that I call home. Yeah. So I have
Yeah.
to, this is a public forum. I think Singapore is very, very goal driven. It's a very efficient society. It's a very punctual society. And I do reflect that whenever I am in Singapore, uh, that you are a product of your environment, right? And so I think I'm quite productive here. I'm quite results driven. But it's quite interesting because when I go back home to Brunei, right, where we both have lived,
Yeah.
and it's a slightly different environment, it becomes very clear to me that I am a fish out of water, because my sense of timeline standards, it's a little bit different. And don't even say Brunei. I won't mention other countries, but the other countries that you and me have lived and worked in, it's a bit different from Singapore, right? And I only realized this when I've left the country, gone on a short 1 week holiday somewhere. I'm like, oh wow, like I really needed this break, because in Singapore it's a certain treadmill that everyone is running on.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
What about you?
Singapore.
I don't know whether you feel.
No, I feel the same.
Yeah,
Singapore, again, Singapore is a wonderful country to live in. Not saying it
yeah,
just for the sake of saying it. And I have really, there was the opportunities were there. It was
yeah,
safe, and like you said, when you are again in the profession that I work in, surgical, and it's
yeah.
very high paced, high adrenaline, and you have to be, what do you call that? Um,
On the
you,
ball.
you got to be on the ball. You just have to be on. Yeah, you got to be on the ball, and and you got to be. You have to have that edge. You have to have that edge over your peers. So because everyone is trying to get to that level, and when you, for example, you take holiday, you come back home. For example, Brunei,
Yeah.
that sort of that stress or that comes down. That
Yeah,
comes down, and
absolutely. And
and
that's the
and
blessing. That's the blessing of that kind of environment. A great
that's right.
place for our
Yeah.
parents to retire
Yeah, yeah,
and not be worried about
yeah,
things that maybe don't really matter. But in Singapore, everyone's a little bit stressed, right?
yeah. Everyone is
And
stressed. Space is very tight.
not to
There's yeah,
relax. Even if you
yeah,
pay them to relax, they don't know how. It's
yeah. That's true. That's true. But
yeah.
I guess, like I said, we've been through a few countries now, and every
Mm.
country has its pros and cons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I mean, Brunei and Singapore, they've got a lot of similarities apart from currency. You think? Are they?
Uh,
I'm putting. I'm
we
putting
were
you.
both we were both British colonies at one point.
Yeah.
We were both British rule of law. You, I invite you to respond also if you have other
I'm
ideas.
putting you on the spot, Lucian, but yeah, maybe we don't need to answer that.
Okay.
Now, it just segues nicely to my next part,
Yeah.
society. Yeah,
Mm,
especially. I mean, my podcast is mostly about cost of living and the middle hustle grind, and sorry, the working class grind. So
okay.
Singapore, things are expensive. I think it's fair to say everyone is going through that. Fuel prices are high, groceries are high.
Yeah.
And what's it like in Singapore right now? Do you feel that? Do you feel that at all? Cost of
Yeah.
living?
I think the thing that Singapore does well is Singapore have created options for everybody. I think one of the real success stories is the Housing Development Board (HDB) scheme that they have, right? That
Yeah,
I think is made available to basically all Singaporeans should you need it.
yeah,
I think that they've done a great job with public transport. The MRT here is fast, efficient, and affordable. I love also the food court situation where, as I understand it, the hawkers who are in it need to provide that there's kind of a price cap on the food that you're allowed to serve. You can't kind of like charge unreasonable prices, and they monitor that closely. So I think Singapore has done a really interesting job of just creating options. Obviously, if you want to go to Sentosa or downtown or have a Michelin meal, $500, you can do that, or you can also have a great meal at $6, right? So, um, I think Singapore has created options. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's what I want to say.
all right. Now,
But
if you
if you want the sort of the good things in life or the nice things in life, it can be very expensive in Singapore also.
correct, yeah, you've got the balance. Yeah, you've got
Yeah,
the very high end stuff, and you've got
yeah,
the street stuff as well.
yeah.
In terms of, if I was to, how is your industry going to look like in a decade, 5 years? Like what's Lucien Ong going to be like? I know you telling me earlier that you're going to, that you sort of foresee yourself
Yeah.
doing this for the next 20, 30 years. How do you sort of see how a decade in your
Yeah,
industry, in
absolutely.
society? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there are two parts to this. I think for Yutaka, it's a 50-year-old business that I'm a part of now. I think so. We sell packaging solutions. We sell packaging machines, packaging material. No matter what real life industry you're in, you need that. And so I have no doubt that we will continue to be around and growing for the next 50 years. Okay, let's say 20 years. Now, the other hat that I have, Enduring Ventures, the holding company, I believe that local SMEs that do an essential contribution to the local economy. I think there are thousands upon thousands of this in Singapore and also in every country. And I think that founders of these companies, some will have successes, but many will not. And I think that it's a great opportunity and also a great responsibility to be able to sort of go to these founders, really treat them with the utmost respect, treat their legacies with respect, and saying, look, um, we can extend your legacy over the long term. And so I think that's kind of a vision that is very exciting to me. There are no imminent plans yet, but I can imagine in the future, you talked about long term. I can imagine in the future there is a day in which more opportunities will arise in that regard. To be the steward of choice for enduring
Yeah.
companies that make a contribution to Singapore.
When you say more opportunities, a lot of people that I've spoken to right now, they talk a lot about AI. It's the big hype right now. Do you
Yeah.
feel that AI is going to encroach into your industry, Lucian?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use AI. So I never used AI, and then 6 months ago, one day I started using it, and I use it now daily, for longer than I had expected. I think AI, for the SME environment, SME meaning like a small company, 10 to 20 staff, uh, less resources than an MNC. I think if the company knows how to leverage AI properly, there's so much productivity gains. Whether it's reviewing legal contracts, whether it's looking at um, our our sales data, whether it's sourcing new partners, whether it's helping craft messages to put on social media. Like if you know how to use AI, and you do it kind of elegantly, it creates it upskills your SME capabilities more than what you were able to do it. Because if you don't use AI, a lot of SMEs can't afford those skill sets. Getting medical advice, okay, maybe AI is not perfect, but you either take time off and get pay an expert to tell you the advice, or you type a few words in and maybe it's 70% of the way there, right?
That's right.
And I think in Yutaka's case, we do use AI to some degree, and it is really, really helping us become better.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, this is a question that actually one of our mutual friends asked me to ask my guest speakers from now on, and and he said, if you were to have a time machine and you were to able to go back in time, and let's say a time where maybe Form 3, where you were about 15 years old, what
Yeah.
would you tell to your younger Hanwei self or Lucian self?
Yeah. I will tell Hanwei to trust the process. I was in a hurry. I've always been in a hurry. If there are no immediate results, I get restless and I move on to the next shiny object. But the 40-year-old Lucian, who's gone through a bit more of life experiences, has more responsibility now as a husband, as a father, has bills to pay, a mortgage to pay in a place like Singapore. I feel really blessed about how life has worked itself out. And the 15-year-old Hanwei was in a hurry to be successful quickly. 30-year-old Hanwei in Cambodia was in a hurry to be successful quickly. But the last 10 years was just trusting the process, gaining the experiences I need to gain, learning the skills, being a person who's reliable and who has integrity day in, day out, day in, day out. And I don't know, but I suspect that the Lucien Ong brand today is a strong brand and it's a good brand. And it's a brand that doesn't develop because of the quick win. It's because you have been reliable, you've had track record, you've had integrity over a long period of time. And I think people now want to work with me, partner me, hang out with me because I'm a good guy. And so I tell the 15-year-old Hanwei to just trust the process and let life work itself out.
Well said, Lucian. Amazing. Very well said.
Yeah.
I think just, do you miss back home? Anything that you miss back home? Do you enjoy? Do you go back home often?
Yeah, twice a year at least, but really we
Yeah.
should do more because Brunei is not that far from Singapore. But twice a year, bring the kids over to see the grandparents.
Yeah.
Highlight of everyone's weekend.
That's great.
Go eat sushi at Kampung Ayer or eat roti at Kampung Ayer. Right? We have our usual activities, and then after a long restful weekend, come back to the grind.
Oh, very good. Very good. Hanwei. Now,
Yeah.
is there anything that I've missed that you wanted to talk about?
Um. Yeah, I think as it pertains to career, maybe one more topic that has really helped me in the last say 15, 20 years of my career, the power of mentors and sponsors.
Hmm.
Are you mentor? Maybe is easy word, but sponsor. What's your understanding of the word sponsor?
I think sponsor is someone who is, this is my understanding. So, someone
Yeah,
who is financially supporting you, that would be my understanding, supporting you and trying to build you up so that you potentially work for them at some stage.
or
Is
like a
that
bond? Is it like a
like,
bond?
yeah, that's like a bond, because
Yeah,
I'm thinking from my industry, because if someone sponsors you, like a university sponsors you,
yeah,
you
yes.
they
Yeah, handcuffed for the
you,
next
you're
next few
handcuffed,
years.
for that institute for the next couple of years. So that's my understanding, so I may be
Yeah,
wrong,
no,
but
I think it's directionally my understanding too, but I
yeah.
want to expand on that. I think um my understanding of sponsor is someone who has decided that they want to invest in your success or in your development or in your future. If a sponsor happens to be your boss, the sponsor will invite you to maybe do a master's program and get exposure for a year and come back and work again. Or your sponsor may give you a stretch work assignment. Yes, it's stretched. Yes, it will be uncomfortable, but it's in good faith because that sponsor thinks that you will be able to succeed. And I think a sponsor, if it's not your direct boss, it's someone who is able, when you're not around, or even if you are, they will go to someone else and say, I put my reputation on the line. I strongly, strongly recommend Shafiq or Lucian for this. And a sponsor is someone who's willing to put their social capital to help you. Um, Mentor, I think, is maybe a more generic and they'll take time to have coffee with you. You have questions, they give answers, they give you guidance, a bit of wisdom here and there, but it's more like knowledge and experience sharing. I think sponsor, I'm not saying it's greater than mentor, but it's a slightly different angle. They will actually put their name on the line to help you succeed. Yeah. So with that in mind, a lot of the big opportunities I've been given in the last say 20 years, whether it was in government consulting or whether it was going to the Philippines or even now being able to transition, I've always had sponsors who have um, given me an opportunity. And I believe that if these sponsors did not give me that opportunity, I would not have been able to build the career experiences that I've built. Now, why I'm saying this is important is I think it's maybe, I don't think there's a clear formula how you get sponsors and
Mm.
mentors. But I think if you have the privilege to find, and if they're there, they take an interest in you, they're willing to be available for you, to help you, to have coffee with you. But if you find mentors and sponsors, I really believe that you should treasure that relationship and just learn as much you can from that person, uh, for however long they want to be your sponsor.
Mm. Are
I
you
think
worried?
it's,
Yeah. Is there sometimes people get worried about if there's an ulterior motive? But when it comes to is that? Do you think
yeah,
like?
no,
Do you
no,
feel like that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think, we're all human, right? And humans have incentives. Or
Yeah,
everyone, you have an incentive, I have an
yeah,
incentive for being here,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, I think that I think it's fair to think that there is an incentive, but I think incentives can also, if as long as the incentive is not like a perverse or trapping kind of incentive, I
Mm,
think it's okay. Maybe my boss is nice to me because maybe he hopes I keep on working with him for the next 5 years, and as long as I am fine with that, then it's okay. Then it's, we have
mm,
mutual interests, right?
mutual interest. I think that's mutual benefits.
Mutual benefits. If the
Yeah.
mentor, passing knowledge, but the reality also is that person's retired, and it's either having coffee with me to tell me about the good old days versus him just taking a walk in the park. Maybe that, and I'm also okay to take 2 hours and learn from, so I think it's okay that people have incentives as long as it's something you're comfortable with.
Fantastic, Lucian. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed this conversation today. It was really nice catching up, and I hope people, listen to this and take a leaf out of your chapters. Take a page out. I'm saying it. I'm not saying it right, but basically, you've given really good advice, and I hope people
Thank you.
can take away something from this. Especially, like you said, it's a journey. Don't rush it. Everyone's got their own path.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy for you, and I wish you all the best in whatever you're doing, and wish things work. I mean, I think they'll continue to work out really well for you.
And I wish when you come back to Singapore next, and get
Yeah.
your Singapore dollars out, please, let's hope there's enough time for a coffee. Hope unless there's too much SGD for you to,
Oh gosh,
to focus
Lucian,
on.
you're
Yeah,
putting me in the spot here.
yeah, yeah,
No, but no, thank you very much, Lucian. And yeah, if there's something else we can talk about in the future, I'll get in touch.
absolutely. Well, we can talk in a year's 2027 episode,
Yeah,
and see how.
we can do an episode every year.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
if this channel is still running.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, Shafiq.
Thanks.